Awesome. So welcome to our very first episode officially with a guest to
Take two.
hurry up and wait. Take two. This is actually our second time recording because we're still figuring it out. And so
Yeah, we're working
uh
on it.
I'm here with Josh, our two hosts, and our co-hosts, or our guests today, not co-hosts, but our guest would be Dr. Carol Meza, and she is and Josh she's got a long list of accomplishments to add to her name. So
I don't know if we have
she
enough time for all those, but we'll
U.S.
get there.
Army veteran, sergeant, Purple Heart recipient, uh,
Miss Kansas,
Miss Kansas,
Miss Kansas on there.
doctorate,
Nonprofit
nonprofit,
creator,
VSO. I bet mom. She's got
mother. Yeah,
mother.
she's a
Yeah,
mom. Yeah,
so she's doing it all, and we're just honored to have you on today. Um, it's actually a lot of strings of connection, but the original connection was between you and Josh because you guys went to basic and AIT together.
yeah, a long time
That's
ago.
correct. Yeah,
Yeah, and
so
I was just gonna say I appreciate you guys having me and allowing me to share my story and how I got here. I think it will be good for the audience, especially our target population, who is the veteran population.
right.
And let's just see what we can do.
Yeah, jumping right off into the deep end here.
Yeah,
So,
let's go. So let's start off. I like to give some context, some background on who you are. And I like to maybe talk a little bit about maybe your upbringing and what inspired you to join the military. And then why did you choose the Army of
Shoot.
all
Can we?
ranks?
So no one in my family ever joined the military. It all happened because I was in 10th grade. I was in high school when 9/11 happened, and I remember sitting in computer class, and the teacher came in running, and she was crying. She was pretty upset, and she turned on the TV and told us what was happening. And I remember watching one of the planes crashing into one of the towers, and it was just I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that was happening. Then the
Hmm.
news followed, like everything that was going on, what was happening, and we were being deployed overseas, and I was like, I want to be part of that. Like I want to join. And so g- at the time, I was not old enough to join the military. So then um, my recruiter actually went to my parents, and my parents said, "We're not signing the paperwork." And they told me to get a different
Mm.
job, go into something more adequate for women. So I thought that was a little offensive. And I remember, yeah,
that'll
I
set you on
remember
fire.
telling them that I wasn't going to be 17 forever. And so I graduated high school. I ended up going to a community college for 2 years. And then I knew that I wasn't going to make it through college financially. And so it was time to do something else. At the time, I was 20, and my sister was dating my recruiter, believe it or not. And so I gave him a call, and I was like,
Did she get a bonus for that?
oh, I'm sure she did.
Was that the what did they call that? The buddy referral program or
That's so
So,
funny.
you know what? I was also in a relationship that turned out to be it was verbally abusive, and then it turned into physical abuse once, and I left. I had no issues leaving. I was not going to put up with that. So I called my recruiter and I told him, I said, "Hey, I'm ready. Let's do this." And so five of us went to take the ASVAB test, and I was the only one who passed. So I think things
Really?
were meant to
Do you remember
be.
your
I
score?
don't remember, but it wasn't that great. I'll tell you
No.
that much. I was so new to all that. And he said, "What MOS do you want to go into?" And I said, "Whichever one gets me out of here the fastest." And he said, "ADA Mike,
Hmm.
drivers." And he
There
said, "But
you
I'm
go.
gonna tell you, there's a $20,000 bonus, because you're going to be on the road. There's a high probability that you'll get blown up, and there's a lot basically, like, you'll be in danger, and, it's not guaranteed that you'll come back, but it is guaranteed that you'll deploy." So I appreciated him being that honest because we heard a lot about recruiters, right, in basic training, like, "Oh, my recruiter lied to me," or
Yeah.
blah, blah.
Hmm.
No, mine was
I was just
Sure.
gonna say he
Yeah,
was very honest with you. Not many were
he
willing to
was
put that out there
awesome,
right out of
and
the
so
front,
I was
so
like, "Yep, let's do it," and I was gone within 4 or 5 days. I was at MEPS, and
wow.
I was shipping
Wow.
out, and I loved basic training.
And how did your family handle
So
that?
my family, they at first didn't really care. They were like, "Okay, well, she's old enough to do whatever she wants." It didn't really hit them until I was deploying. I was like, "Hey, I'm leaving," and they were
Yeah,
Sure.
like everything just yeah.
this is real now.
And so
Yeah,
it was mainly my dad. My mom
yeah.
cried, but
Yeah.
my dad was just like you could tell that he was hurt and he was scared. And so I actually came back
Sure.
from Iraq on his birthday, 11/11 of 11.
Oh, beautiful.
So
Wow. I came back from Iraq on my mom's birthday of all things. That was my
isn't that
mom's birthday when
cool?
we got home. So,
Nice.
that's
Yeah, and
wild,
so
yeah.
he gave me the biggest hug. He was not a very affectionate parent. He was more like on the tough side, but I mean, he was a great father. A lot of great advice, but he wasn't too soft, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
S
I think that's parents in that
yeah,
generation. It was a
yeah,
lot like that,
and
especially with
so
men not being able to
yeah, I
express
agree.
emotion and
And so when I came home, he gave me the biggest hug, and he told me that he loved me, and he was happy that I was back, and I was like, "Wow, I've never seen this out of my dad."
yeah, yeah. It took almost losing you for him to realize, like, "Hey, I should
Yeah,
probably
I
give
was
her a
gonna
hug
say,
every once in a
well,
while."
well,
Yeah.
it based on what we know is like that makes a lot of sense because you're a
Yeah,
Purple Heart recipient, and we
yeah.
do want to get into that. But let's take a step back and go. Okay, so you went to basic training. You found yourself in Missouri, and
And 4
you
Lost
I
in
was
the
hoping we were gonna get
Woods.
through this
Oh
without
my
saying
goodness.
that.
You know
for
what?
lost in the
It
woods.
was so funny
Oh,
because Kansas and Missouri are neighbors. So we can be in Joplin, Missouri
Yeah,
within 20 to 25 minutes from where I live. I'm not kidding you. They made us fly from Kansas City to Fort Leonard Wood. I'm not kidding you. So I'm like,
what did you even what how high did you even get, like
s
20,000 feet or
so
like
I thought that was the stupidest thing, but the military doesn't always make sense, right?
wow.
Uh,
sure.
They wanted to make sure that budget stayed the same next year, they didn't wanna lose
and
that money.
so there was a few of us who shipped out, and we made it to basic training, and then another punch in the gut when they were like, "You're graduating, now you're going to AIT." And I was like, "Finally, I'm getting a break from Fort Leonard Wood." And they were like, "Carry like front load and back
Yeah,
load, and then
pack
you're
your
going
bags,
across." Yeah.
walk to the other side.
I was like,
Straight. So much disappointment.
Yeah,
Uh,
and just for context, I don't know if we mentioned this, but Josh and Carol, you guys were in the same
yeah,
basic training company and the same truck
we
company in
were,
AIT. You
yes,
yep,
guys went basic
yep,
yeah.
AIT
So
together.
yep. Yeah, we're the last of the Mohicans when it came to drill sergeants in AIT too. When we left, we graduated AIT right before Exodus, Christmas
mhm,
Exodus, and when they came back after Exodus, it was just drill
yeah.
instructors. There was no more drill sergeants. So
Did you guys have the shark attacks at basic training at
I
Fort
don't
Leonard
think
Wood?
so. What's that?
actually, what really sucked about our basic training is we got stuck with a reserve unit. So every
Oh,
2 weeks there was new drill
Mhm,
sergeants that
mhm.
came in. So, like, you would get a guy that just came off the couch a couple weeks ago, and he was, like, trying to smoke us, and he would do, like, 5 push-ups and then be done, and
right.
everybody's like, "Well, wait a second here, like, how are you gonna tell us to do that? You just"
That
So,
is,
that was something because it basically restarted red phase, like, every 2
Yeah.
weeks for a couple days because
yeah,
they had
that's
to,
true. Every
they had to
time you got
reset
a
their
You
new
know
one
equipment.
in,
you know what's one
Yeah.
yeah.
thing that I became really good at in basic training, and it went on to even now, I became, an awesome runner. Remember when we had, like, the
Oh,
platoon
sure.
guide, but then when they had the roadblocks, we were them, I was one of them, so I had to, like, run
Yeah.
ahead of the platoon to block. So it
Yeah.
was a lot of sprinting, which at the time I didn't know that this sprinting makes you a really good runner. So actually whenever I came back from overseas, running is one of the ways I coped with the reintegration and the stress.
Hmm.
But I remember
Oh, you did it in a healthy way.
Oh, but
Imagine
I
that.
was fortunate enough to go into the mental health field right away. So, I mean, I understood. So, I mean, not
Yeah,
Right.
everyone's
perfect.
that fortunate. And I didn't recognize it that much at the time until
Yeah.
now. And I was actually talking about that at dinner last night. But anywho, this was funny because I came home and I had a friend who was a really good runner, and he was like, "Hey, let's run." He was training for, I think it was a 10K. And so we went to a park that's called Gun Park, and it goes down, and then the hills are very steep, and it's long.
Nice.
I went around that park like 3 times. He couldn't keep up with me. He was like, "I can't do this." He
Ah.
Yeah.
We always did those runs too, where you had like the last person would
Yes.
sprint to the front, and then they would jog with the rest, and then the last person was. I forget what they
Mhm.
call those. There's a
Yeah.
name for it, but we always did those too. I remember that, and at the time I was like, "This is absolutely terrible." But then you get out and you get to doing your own thing, and it's like, "Oh yeah, that probably helped me quite a
That
bit
not
do
only that,
this."
but, like, the
I
Now I would
weather,
just
the
die.
environment
There's
in
no
which we
way.
were running, it was so cold. I
Yeah,
remember I felt like my throat was about to bleed because how cold it was,
yeah,
and it was, like, short sleeves and shorts. That's
yeah, yeah. Your chest only opens up, this much, but you need this much air. It's like learn how to salvage your air pretty quick. So you get out of AIT, um, get back to your unit because you were National Guard
Yes,
as
I was
well, right?
guard. So, we left what, December, right, Josh?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
December
we
14th
so
actually
we
was our last day,
yeah,
which
we
is
came
odd
home
enough that I
for New
remember that.
Year's of 2008. Because I remember hanging out with Whitney Hicks. Remember Hicks? We were like this. So
Yeah,
we actually ended
yeah,
up spending New
yeah.
Year's together. So I go home and I actually, believe it or not, I dropped out of college. I did.
Whoa.
Wow.
My family was going through a lot, and so the best thing I could do to help was drop out of college, and I got a job at a factory making windows.
And honestly, I think that's actually more common than people think because I think a lot of people join the military, or at least they used to, with the intent of going to college, right? And then like you're like, oh yeah, I'll use all that benefit, and then you get into your unit or wherever, and that's like everything just happens, and then before you know it, 8 years have gone by, and you're like, I
Yeah.
never even went to school, like I've been so busy with everything. So I think that actually happens more often than people want to
Yeah,
admit.
so
But
I had graduated with an associate's in criminal justice, and I went back. Obviously, I transferred to 4 year Pitt State, where I teach now, ironically. And I was taking criminal justice classes, and it just did not feel like it fit anymore. I had worked in the criminal justice system before, and I
Mm.
felt like a lot of it was more punishment. And even though it's like you're innocent until proven guilty, the way individuals are treated, and even in correctional facilities, is you're guilty until proven otherwise.
so proven innocent.
So I didn't agree
Right.
with
Yeah.
that, which is fine. I mean, obviously, it was a field that was not for me. So my family was going through a lot. My little sister was really young and she was having a baby. Um, and so I dropped out of college, went to work for this factory. My mom and my sister and I worked together. So I was giving them a ride because we didn't have a car. I was the only one with a vehicle. So we got orders in 2009 saying, hey, we're going to train all year because in October of 2010, we are going to be going overseas. We're going across the pond. Um,
So your recruiter
no,
didn't lie to you.
no,
He was actually telling you the truth.
yeah.
You were going.
And so I was like, okay, I'll do that. I was like, I'm not making crap for money at a factory, and I had a boyfriend at the time who was like, "Oh, yeah, when people take a break from college, they never go back." And I was like, "Watch me." I was like, "I'm going back." And so I was really pissed at the time because when I told him that this deployment was coming up and that I wanted to go, he gave me an ultimatum, either me or the military. And obviously, yeah.
Really?
So obviously we
Wow. He must not even
So
like himself. Jeez.
we know what happened, so I ended up leaving,
Right,
and
right. How's he doing these days?
that's a story for a different day. Uh, so
Oh,
he's not
good,
doing very well.
good.
Um, so I
Oh,
came back, and when I was overseas, I saw the need for mental health. I was one of one of the suicide prevention officers in our unit, like, they trained 2 of us, and I was one of them, and I was like, "Oh, wow." So I found it very fascinating, right? And just being able to help other people was so fulfilling to me. I loved it. And then I started reading a little bit about the brain and how it works and how it affects, like, how depression affects the your physical health and your mental health and all that. So I was like, okay, I want to go into mental health. So I came back and I went to see my advisor who he was awesome. He was really smart. He had a JD and then um he had a doctorate in I think education, but he was also a licensed clinical social worker who obviously was in the mental health field. So he was very unique. And so I told him,
You got kind
yeah,
of the full
yeah.
package
And
there. Like,
so he
wow.
asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, "I'm not sure what I want to do, but I didn't like criminal justice. I want to help people, and uh, I'm thinking maybe something like this or like that, maybe psychology. I don't know." And he was like, "Oh, it sounds like you want to do social work, and this is what social workers do. You can do crisis intervention, you can do advocacy, you can change policy, you can work at the state level, you can be part of the legislative session," which I was like, "I'll never do that macro work, right?
Right.
Right.
What a
I'm not
yeah,
that
what a
boring,
small
too.
world." And so he was like, "You can also do direct practice. You can have your own clinical practice. You can open a nonprofit. Like, there's all these things that you can do as a social worker, right?" And I was like, "Awesome, sounds great. I just want to do mental health. That's it, right?" Naive
Mhm.
me. So I went to Pitt State and I majored in social work, which put me behind a little bit. I had my daughter my senior year. I got pregnant with her. And so I graduated with a bachelor's degree in social work and a minor in psychology. So then I went to
Did someone tell you you couldn't graduate if you were pregnant? Because that just
No,
seems like
I
that's what
no,
happened.
I did
Like,
have people
watch me.
ask me if I was going to take a break, after I had the baby, and I said,
Yeah,
"No, I really have to finish this degree now, I have a baby." And my professors who are now my
Yeah.
right.
colleagues, they were awesome. They were like Dr. Humphrey specifically said, "Hey, you can bring your baby to class for 6 months if, as long as she doesn't cry too much and
Right.
it doesn't distract the class." And she was an awesome baby. Oh my goodness. She was the perfect baby. She was
Cool.
a sleeper. She was just awesome.
Well,
So I took her to class and then I was supposed to be graduating early. And I was like, I was gonna have a semester off before I could start my master's. And I was like, if I take a break and I'm home with the baby, I won't want to come back. So I decided to minor in
Yeah.
psychology. And I already had some psychology classes that I had taken. So I ended up just minoring. And I remember going to class with my baby and taking exams with my baby on my hip, just kind of walking around the classroom, taking in my exams. And my professors remember that. For example, we just had a meeting for a new professor in history, and we had dinner. And when I walked in, Dr. Lawson was like, "That's her. That's the professor I was telling you about." And I was like, "What do you
yeah.
mean?" And she was like,
I was gonna
"She's the one who came to take a quiz or a test 2 days after she had her baby." I was like, "Yeah, that was me."
yeah. I was gonna say, you gotta be a living legend around those
So,
parts. That's
so,
the
Yeah.
and then another one of my professors from psychology was like, "Yeah, I remember when you will show up to class with your baby." So, I mean, those are pretty good memories to me. And now that I'm a professor, I'm like, a lot of students don't do that, but I was
Yeah.
right.
so devoted to my studies and I was like, I have to do this. I have to. And I was actually going to stop at a bachelor's degree. And my advisor said I was one of the outstanding seniors at Pitt State that year when I graduated. And he was like, "Hey, you have done really well. You should really pursue your master's." So I ended up getting a really generous scholarship at KU. And so I went to KU for my master's in clinical social work, which is more geared towards mental health. And so all my research was about PTSD and traumatic brain injuries among service members. And so I excelled at KU, and I was also like 1 out of 10 outstanding graduate students. We got to meet the Board of Regents, you name it. And that same advisor, I kept going back to Pitt State to just kind of visit with him and tell him how I was doing and like what I was doing with my life. And he was also my husband. Yeah,
Show him
yeah,
your
he was also
daughter.
my husband's advisor. My husband was a criminal justice major, so he had both of us. So we liked to go see him, and he was always like, "Hey, when are you going to get that PhD? When are you going to get that PhD?"
Mm,
I wasn't made for that.
Thanks.
And so fast forward after graduating from KU, I went and practiced and I went to work for the VA Benefits Administration. So my passion was with the veteran population. So I ended up doing that and I was part of the outreach team. And so I did a lot of administrative work more than clinical. I didn't really do much clinical work, even though that's what my main area was. We would go to homeless shelters, and then we would try to find vets, and then get them off the streets. You know, get them connected with the VA Health Administration, get them set up for health services, and then disability services through the Benefits Administration, which that's who I was under. And then we would also connect them with community resources, and then we have Veterans Court on Mondays. And then we worked, one of the women that I worked with, who is now in congressionals at the VA, which is really high, she worked with survivors of military sexual trauma. So then I did some work with her. We were both in the same team and we will rotate and kind of learn from each other. And I started reading those claims, right? Those statements from all over the country, and then so many of them were so similar that I found a theme, like a lot of them were young women, single, and a lot of the perpetrators was our leadership. And so I just became
Mhm.
so fascinated with that topic. And one of the things that I've noticed, and no one has done research on this yet, but I want someone to do it, or I might do it next year. A lot of the sexual assault among men were from the Navy, a lot of Navy. Uh, so
mhm,
anywho, so I came back to Kansas. I lost my father and my brother back to back. So we came back to Kansas to grieve,
mm,
and my mom was diagnosed with cancer and she was going through chemo. And so a lot happened in within 1 to 2 years. And then my brother who I had lost, we lost his wife shortly after. And so it was a
Oh, wow.
lot. And
wow.
so coming back to Kansas was the right choice. Um, and so I was working for a nonprofit for the state of Kansas. I was in adoptions. And I remember thinking, I really like the work I do. I love helping people, but it's just not my thing. Like, the veteran population was still my thing, and I was still helping them on the side with claims and stuff, and I had applied
Mhm,
to become an accredited agent, which took years to get that certification, and I had a horrible day in the field, and I just came home and I was like, "Why am I doing something that I'm not passionate about?" So I had heard about
Right.
this PhD program. It was perfect. It was in Texas, where I was born. It was in San Antonio, Texas, and it was at a Catholic school. It was a Catholic university, and so I'm Catholic, and I always wanted to go to Catholic school, but my parents couldn't afford it. So, and with the Purple Heart, you get a lot of school benefits too. And I was like, I mean, it's just there. Why not go for it? And
right.
so the topic was going to be military sexual trauma. I had seen it throughout my time in the military. I don't know about you guys, but deployment was the worst. Deployment was the worst.
Yeah, we've I actually, have a golf episode coming out in March, and, they share a little bit about, a girl who was almost or she was stabbed multiple times
Yeah.
on base and stuff like that, like, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy um, what happens, and I mean, I was, so disconnected from it, so you don't hear it all about it, but, like, yeah. the stuff you do here, you're like, geez, that's like happening right now.
Well, and another connection between all three of us, just to kind of show how small the military really is James deployed with the unit that Carol ended up going to. And so when we all met for the first time, they actually already knew a bunch of the
Yes.
same people because it was the
Yeah,
same unit.
and
So
you actually heard a bunch of stories about me, or mainly
yeah,
one
yeah.
story, just a bunch of
Which we
times.
didn't know about.
Yeah, you
So
didn't
yeah,
know it was me.
let's go back a little bit here, Carol, because I know I mean, I don't want to ever stop you because everything that you say has just got so much weight to it, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of depth to everything. So you had mentioned back all the way too about the PTSD thing, and I think going back and talking about your deployment and kind of like going into that, the deployment, and then coming out of it will give a lot more context too to kind of like why it is that you found so much enjoyment in that sector of military mental health and PTSD and sexual trauma and all that kind of stuff. I think that'd be good to kind of fulfill in people for why that was your passion or helped sustain it.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, just seeing what happened and me being a woman, we had to carry a key when we were deployed to lock ourselves in the bathrooms when we were taking showers or just using the bathroom, which I thought it was crazy. And we had overnight duty, right, where they will guard the women's barracks or tents. And so, that became a concern to me, and I was like, "Well, I really wanna look into that," and the fact that whenever I came back home and I went to work for the VA, like, I was seeing a lot of the things that were happening, right? Another thing was when we first arrived to Iraq, I remember, I think it was the major or somewhere, it was a high ranking officer, commissioned officer, who was raped. He had been raped and he came forward, and I remember people were making fun of him, like, "Oh, he probably wanted it,"
Mhm.
and
Right,
yeah,
men can't get
yeah,
raped. Like
exactly. And I was
that's
like,
not possible.
"Wow, I wonder how many men are sexually assaulted in the military and don't report it because of this," right? How it's just not welcomed and, um a lot of them, like, the retaliation that comes with it, and so, when I decided to pursue my PhD, originally, I was going to, research that topic, but there was a lot of barriers that I couldn't do it, and so when I was interviewing, committee members in my chair for the dissertation, I kinda looked at everyone, like, what their specialties was, and then I found one, she was a clinical social worker outside of a base. I can't say which one, but it's the worst base in the US
Mhm.
on the
Everyone knows.
south side of the
Right.
country. Uh, it
Yeah.
If if you've been in the military long enough, you know
yeah,
which
yeah,
base
yeah,
we're
yeah.
talking about.
If you know,
So
you know.
she said, "Well, Carol, you know what?" And she said, I used to work for this practice that was outside of this base, and a lot of the women who were sexually assaulted, they were terrified to report it to their leadership. So what they will do is they would sneak off base and then come seek therapy within the civilian sector. She said, what we
Mm,
can do is we can connect with the practice and see if they'll give us permission to use those files. We need to redact their names and the perpetrators' names and all that because we still had to protect their names, their identities, and see if you can do a thematic analysis and see what you find. And so I said, okay. But
To provide a little context there too, just for people that aren't maybe necessarily with military lingo and stuff, when Carol got deployed, especially as a truck driver, it's not every night that you're laying in a
right.
barracks, right? Like you're not in a hotel
No.
when you're on the road. It's not like, "Oh, we're gonna stop off at the Arby's and the Applebee's and we're gonna crash at the
No.
motel late." A lot of that travel time, especially on, longer convoys and stuff, you
Oh
can get
yeah.
stuck on the side of the road, which is probably
Yes.
more often than not. So, there's a lot of, I don't know if opportunity is the right word, but there's a lot of opportunity where things can happen, if you're not with the right people. And from talking with you, you were with some great
I was with
soldiers that were.
I was with
very
some
accommodating
amazing
to you.
people. One, Josh, let's go back to what you said about being on the road. I spent more time sleeping in my vehicle and in tents all over Iraq than I did back in Kuwait at Arifjan, which we were stationed at Arifjan.
Right.
So our missions were usually 2 weeks. We had one, maybe two that were 4 weeks. We would come back to Kuwait for 2 days, do the maintenance on the vehicles, do laundry, and then go back on the road. So that was my life. Uh, and so, yes, I did not spend much time in Kuwait, and we spent a lot of time sleeping in tents. In some tents, we slept with the men, but my team was amazing, especially D, James, D Ross, Big D.
Yeah, D. Ross.
He was so protective of me. And I think like the men that I was with, I think one of the reasons why is because they were all dads and they were all girl dads. D has all girls too. So
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think that's one of the
Yeah.
reasons why. And even whenever I had to change in the tents, they would make this cocoon for me, right? And then they will go away, make sure that like no one would come in. So I mean, they were just freaking awesome. I had an incident where I did have a guy come on to me when we were on a mission. We were training another unit. We were doing the right seat ride, and so
Mm.
when I mentioned it to them, they jumped on it like that. So I mean, it was just
Yeah.
yeah, and
Do you remember how many people were in like your either section or unit or platoon, and how many of those were female compared
yeah,
to male?
so we were second platoon. We had 50 per platoon, but our squad, I think maybe 10 per squad, but then some of them went to the gun trucks. So it was either 10 to 12 that we had per squad. When we started, I was the only female on that convoy. Yeah.
Wow.
And then
That's gotta be intimidating, even for someone like you who's very confident and, a very strong individual, strong woman. I mean, that's still gotta be very intimidating to be literally in the middle of an unknown country with
yeah.
just a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At some point,
So so to have those great guys,
yeah,
that's gotta be awesome, and
they were
I'm sure they're out there
awesome.
somewhere,
I
and
I
maybe they'll
we
see this.
over time we had a couple other women on convoy with me. I had one who I'm actually still really good friends with. Do you remember Cook, James? Wendy Cook? We call her Cookie.
Mm-mm. No.
And then it w- and then we also
Tough deal.
had Hall, what's her name, but she ended up getting sick, and I think she only went maybe on 1, 2 missions with us. Um But yeah, so it was just me for a lot of the missions, and I am so grateful that I was on missions with who I was with, and they knew my husband.
So then you're on this deployment. So you're on this deployment. You're a truck driver at that time, and probably still somewhat a little now. The term IED finder was kind of what an 88 mic was, right? Every time you went on the road, you were basically trying to find, not trying to, but found IEDs. Um, you did unfortunately find one, which
Yep.
led to your Purple Heart. So why don't we discuss what happened there and kind of what was the trampoline jump from
Yeah,
that to the
so
rest?
I think I'm a huge believer that things happen for a reason. That night, my partner was really tired, and I said, "Well, let me drive. I'll drive that night," which usually, as NCOs, we usually don't drive, right? It,
You guys
mhm.
were a het unit,
Yeah.
correct? So, yeah, so NCOs are
Yeah.
usually the A drivers or,
Yeah.
not driving, so
And so we were the lead vehicle. So I want to start by when I started the convoys, I went ahead of my unit. I was part of that 10%, the odd and we took over all the hets and the tents and all that for before our unit came out. So I started doing missions with a unit out of Texas to learn the roads and then our mission route. And so when our unit came, then it was my job and everyone else who was with me to train the rest of the unit. And so I started with scouts. We had our own gun trucks, and so I was scout. Scout is the first gun truck ahead of everyone, and so we were the ones looking for the IEDs. When the mission really came down that we need to do the drawdown, I went back to the lead vehicle, which was the one behind the scout. And being a lead vehicle, you are at a higher risk of being blown up. Yeah,
You're the first one there
and because they try
after
to
the
take
scout,
out the lead, right? Iraqs, they know
right?
what
That
they're
stops
doing.
everything else.
So that happened, and then we're on mission. So my he's like, I'm really tired, and I was like, okay, I'll drive. So he was on that 2004 deployment with you, James.
Oh yeah.
Wilson. I don't know if you remember him, or maybe he was with the 778.
No.
But he had deployed in 2004.
Okay.
And so we're driving, and he said, hey, you're too close to the edge. I need you to get on the middle of the road. So if we get hit, we're away from the IED. And I said, well, we just went through the new IED training, and the EFPs are really popular, um, which is, it's called explosive form penetrator, and it's made out of copper, right? And so the further you're away from it, the more damage it will do, because it gives it time to form, and it melts through the metal, and it bounces once it gets inside the cabin. That's how it kills whoever's inside. And so he said, I'm telling you to move to the middle. And I said, no, I said, I'm driving. And he said, well, next thing you know, things are going to go boom.
My
And when
truck.
he said that, things went boom. And it actually hit on
Wow.
his side. It hit on his side on the passenger side. And he had a really, really bad concussion. He didn't really know what he was doing. He was trying to get out of the vehicle. But I think we were out for a few seconds, because I remember him and I arguing, and then everything just went blank. And like when you're playing COD and like you get killed or whatever, it's just that white noise, and everything just sounds so far away, and you don't know
Mm-hmm.
what's going on.
Yeah, the what do they call those?
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah. That's
flashbangs.
exactly how it felt. And so I don't remember much of what happened, except one, he was trying to get out, but you know how we had the locks, the inner locks, so that you couldn't get out, like
Mm-hmm.
they couldn't open the door. The Iraqis couldn't open the door. And someone was trying to open either my door or his door, but it wasn't one of our guys. It was one of the Iraqis. And this happened going through an Iraqi checkpoint, a military checkpoint. So
Wow.
yeah.
Oh.
And everything happened so fast because we're going through it, and there's a couple, like a village, and lights were on, and then kids were playing, and next thing you know is like everything happened within 30 seconds. Kids are
Yeah.
gone, lights are off, and boom. It was just like, what is happening? And then it was there.
Yeah.
And so
So.
I didn't remember much, except later I remember one of the gun trucks pulling security, and our medic running, banging, like, let us in. And so finally, somehow I opened
Mm-hmm.
the door, and I had just had this massive headache. I'm throwing up, and I'm
Yeah.
covered in hives from head to toe. And my head is pounding. I don't know what's happening. I don't know where I'm at. And I don't remember much of it, except later I woke up in Camp Adder at the doctor's office.
Mm.
So
Wow. And there was a piece of shrapnel somewhere,
yes.
right? Statute of limitations, I think, is passed now. I don't think you're going to get in trouble. And for those that don't know, typically you're not allowed to bring things home from a deployment, right? Like, especially,
Sure.
said shrapnels or
Yeah.
maybe pictures or, I'm sure no one has
No.
ever done it, right?
Ever
Like no one's
we're all
ever,
No.
innocent.
No one.
no one's ever filled little jars of sand to hide things in them and send them home. And, no one does
Nobody.
that.
Nobody sends home detainee paintings,
No, or the
You know those
photos,
suit
or
or
totes
takes
that
video.
the black ones that we use to send our stuff home? So
Yeah. Tonic or the, what are they? Yeah, the
yeah.
tote boxes. I think
So
they were
that
nice.
is what I used because we couldn't bring anything back. So I remember we had to, I'm trying to find the picture of it. Here we go.
Oh, nice.
Wow. And where was that at when
So
you got it?
we went to the bay to look at our vehicle because we didn't know like what it looked like after the explosion.
Yeah.
And I mean it blew out like the fuel tanks, which were 300 gallons of fuel, so that was a lot of fuel. But thankful
Did it come from the
it
side or
was at
underneath?
an angle, kind of like a 45-degree angle ish,
Okay.
and so it hit. I'll send you pictures of it too. I took some pictures that we were not supposed to keep.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that'd be cool.
and
Statute of
so
limitations.
it hit because it was at an angle. It kind of came from under, but because I was close to it, it didn't like do more damage. And so it took out the fuel tank
Right.
and the antenna for the radio. Um, and then some of the shrapnel got in the cab. And that one, whenever I got in the truck and I closed it, it was like on the side of my head. So it either, when it hit and
Oh,
it
No.
wow.
banged, I think I either went forward or something and it went behind me and it got stuck. And I don't
Mhm.
know. Anywho,
Wow.
it didn't hit me, but it should have. Um,
Yeah,
and to
right.
make it worse, we had a freaking captain with us at the time who was not supposed to be in the lead vehicle. And you know what happened?
Statute of limitations. I gotta say
Yeah,
that because we
so everyone smoked in our convoy except me. And she had just quit smoking.
but no one smoked in the vehicles.
Right. That was against the rules. Um, we were not supposed to have radios either. Uh,
Yeah, when we got there, they had gotten smart and put like little alarms in the vehicle. So if you got caught smoking in there, the
oh,
alarms
really?
would
Yeah,
ring go
Really?
off and stuff. Yeah, they got pretty
That's
serious about it. So yeah,
yeah,
you guys
crazy.
we
wouldn't have
didn't
made
have
it.
that.
So everybody went from smoking to
So
dipping.
anywho,
But
we have this officer with us, and her husband was also deployed with us, and they were with battalion, and so I'm like, ma'am, and I think she's in Michigan now. I have to get a hold of her.
uh-oh.
I
Oh,
think
yeah?
Lieutenant or
Uh-oh.
Captain
You remember her
Gaddy
name?
was her last name, and
Yeah, just
so
look her up.
she's like, I want to be in your guys' vehicle. And I was like, ma'am, we're the lead. You know, we don't put officers in the lead vehicle, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't want to get
Right.
in trouble. And especially if something happens. And she's like, oh, it's fine. I'll let him know that it was me, that it was my choice, whatever. And I'm like, what are the chances that we'll get blown up, right? Like, it hasn't
Right.
happened. It was
Right.
July. Tell me why, as soon as we crossed.
Yeah. Well, luckily she was there to tell them it was her
Yeah,
idea,
she was
right? I mean,
awesome. But, oh,
What so were you guys were driving, was it a Rhino?
yeah, we had the Rhino. Yes.
Okay.
yeah.
So that also has passengers in the back. So your unit was a HET unit, which is heavy equipment
Are
transportation,
you
so
talking
like
about the
tanks
gun truck?
and things like that. You guys Yeah, your gun truck that
Oh,
you were
so at
driving
the
at the time.
time when that happened, I was already driving the hit. I had left the gun truck and I moved back one
Oh.
truck back. So I was driving the hit. Does that make
Oh, I
sense?
see. Okay.
I never drove a head. I was only medium truck. Do they have this like the center seat
So
inside? Like how
the
did you guys get
hit
Dude,
three in there?
a head is a
kind of. So
hotel.
the hit
Well,
the
good.
M1070 is the hit, and then the M1000 is the trailer, right? So the hit itself is actually 12 feet wide. I think it's 8 feet wide, 12 feet tall, 52 feet long. And the hit was
Mhm.
made to transport M1 tanks, and the crew will sit in the back, and
Right.
that's why it has like it's just smaller than a twin size seat, and
Okay.
so we
That
had the
makes sense.
driver, and then the middle you have the radios and all that, and then on the other side you have your A
Yeah, but
driver, and then in the back we usually had um a tank crew, which we hardly ever did. It was mainly like an officer or someone who wanted to go, or
Because you guys were doing the
yes,
drawdown, right? So you probably were carrying a bunch of like Haskell barriers and stuff
yeah.
like that too, or something. You guys are hauling that
So
around
this
as
is
well.
actually kind of comical because
Yeah.
we hated the hens because how slow they were, and after that happened, I was like, I love
Yeah.
you so much.
yeah.
Because they're just
So
so
Be-
big. Yeah.
was it just the three of you
yes, it
in
was
there
just
though?
the three of us. Yeah.
Wow. And so
Wow.
something that could have had so many more people in it, that's also another kind of like wow moment. Like
Yeah.
there was only 3 of you.
And so
So that's
that's how
crazy.
that happened. What
What an
experience.
experience.
And then I didn't get to see.
So you process that at that time, right? Like you do your recovery.
Right.
When did you realize that that was more of a deal than it initially seemed?
You know, I feel like it happened in phases. The first one was I was separated from my partner, right? My truck partner. He went to see a doctor. I went to see someone else. They took us out of the vehicle, and I don't know who took who. I didn't see him till
Right.
later. And when I saw him, it was so evident that his brain was so swollen, like his eyes looked like they were about to pop out of his
Yeah.
face. And so
Wow.
I started crying and I ran to him and I hugged him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like when everything sunk in. And also, I think we had made it to Anaconda by then. I can't remember, maybe, or maybe it was Adder. I can't remember. But I went to sleep. Well, I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to be asleep longer than
Mhm.
how many hours, and
Right.
Right.
someone was supposed to wake me up. I don't think the info was passed down to my team because they didn't know where I was. So they were looking for me all over the place and they couldn't find me. And I was, you know how some bases had tents just for women and some it was like it was an open bay
Mhm.
and
Right.
you can sleep like anyone could sleep in them, right?
Right.
Well, and the women's tents were like always like
Yeah,
way
yeah,
over there.
it
Like
was
it was
so
never
ironic.
convenient or
Yeah,
like
so I go to sleep and finally oh God, D, he saved me so many times from different incidents, but he
Yeah.
found me and he was like, "Hey, you need to wake up like I had missed like breakfast, lunch and dinner." And it was like 3 a.m. the following
Wow.
day. And
wow.
I was like, I thought he was messing with me because you know how he is, right? Really funny, always fucking around with everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Right. Yeah.
Well, and did you have a concussion? Like looking back, I don't know if you knew at that time, but did you
I
have a
did. Yeah,
concussion? Because I mean, obviously sleep is
I
like the
had
one
a
thing they tell you
traumatic
not
brain
to do.
injury. Mhm.
A
Yeah.
TBI. Okay.
I was gonna ask you if you had to like what your process was. I mean, we don't have a lot of time. Maybe a conversation for another day. But
Well,
what your process was to recover from TBI and how that's impacted you. Like, I think that's fascinating because that happens with
Yeah,
so many
so
people.
we had found out that I went back to the doctor and the doctor said, you know how we do a follow-up within 48 hours, you know that we have to be under care of a provider. And so
Hmm.
he was like, you had not only did you have a concussion then, but you also had a late onset concussion or something like that. And that's why I had slept for so long and I wasn't supposed to do that. Well,
Hmm.
so we came back, and then it wasn't until I was working for the VA in Minnesota, I found out that the Minneapolis Health Administration had a TBI clinic. And so I went in to do a test, which they had never done before. And it was very lengthy and it was very thorough. I loved the way she did it. And so
Hmm.
she basically said, you know, these issues that you are having, like the short memory loss, and sometimes like when it first happened, I'd be going to places and then I would be in the middle of the road driving somewhere and I had no idea where I was going.
Yeah,
well,
I have that.
Yeah,
terrifying.
so
It is. It's
It's,
so
that's,
scary. It's
yeah.
so scary to just like come to and go, I don't know where I am and I don't know
yeah.
where
Or
I'm
how I got
going.
here. Yeah, I don't know how
How
I
I
got
got,
here.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah.
And so I understood that then, right? So I go more in depth into research and I really focused on military mental health, really dove into PTSD, adjustment disorder, because even though there are a lot of individuals
Hmm.
who don't have PTSD, but they have adjustment disorder, because when you come back from that environment, how can you adjust to this environment like nothing happened?
Yeah.
Especially when you're a guard. Everyone goes to it. I'm not going to say that no one goes to it, but when you're a guard or reserves, you're home, right? And it's like, hey, you're deploying. So you leave your family and everyone, and then you deploy to this a foreign country, you go through combat, and then you come back and you're supposed to pick up where you left off,
Plopped right
being a
back into
dad, being
civilian.
a
Yep.
wife, and all
It,
that.
it's funny you say that because that was kind of the premise of why we started this podcast. Because like the military will spend all the time, money, and effort to train you how to
Yeah.
be in the military, but there is nothing to train you to not be in the military. Right? Like there's not a lot that they're like, okay, well, thanks for spending your time service. Here you go. Goodbye. Have
I'm
fun.
not even kidding you.
Like,
When I came back, I remember sitting at home on my couch and I was like, what am I going to work today? Who's going to feed me? Like, what time is chow? And I
Hmm.
was like,
yeah,
what is happening? And I
yeah,
remember going to the Buckle to buy an outfit, and one of the girls helped me put it together because I didn't know what I was going to
Nice.
wear. And it's like your friends that you went to high school with, now they're married, and they have graduated college, they have kids, and like there are new buildings
Yeah.
or new restaurants. There's like all that's changed, and you're like, it's just so overwhelming.
yeah. Everybody else's life kept going, and you were like picking back up from
Yeah.
where it was a
And
year ago. And it's hard for people to understand that, like both on both sides, the person that's in it and the people that you're dealing with. Like the people that didn't
And
stop.
I
So
didn't realize this until later, but I went from a combat environment, like being in the trenches of combat, to the classroom within like a month. And
Yeah.
so that was, I didn't have time to process what was happening. So that was something else. And, like I said,
Yeah.
I feel very fortunate that things worked out for me because I went straight into the mental health field. And one of the first classes I took was called HBAC, which is human behavior. And it goes
Mm.
from
oh,
like when
beautiful.
you're born
Yeah,
until death and how the brain works and all that. So that helped me a lot.
you're doing a lot of
Yeah,
self
so that
diagnosing
really that really helped, and
as
I'm
you're
like,
taking
I'm
it.
looking at a lot of the individuals that I deployed with, and a lot of them had alcohol dependency. They fell into drugs. We had a lot of suicide, which is what led to start
Hmm.
OTW, outside the wire. And I see and I hear what they struggled with and how they were unable to cope, or they couldn't find the right help. And I was like, by the
Yeah.
grace of God, I ended up in this field, and I was able to cope with it because I understood the human brain and how PTSD and other mental health issues affected the brain. And I was running a lot, to the point where my husband was like, "You don't look healthy, and that's too much. Like, you need to slow down." And obviously, I did ended up going to therapy for a little bit. I had a therapist who was not very good at first. She was young, and she was a civilian within the VA, and so it was not a positive experience. I left feeling worse. And so my husband encouraged me to go back. So I went back, and it was to the point where he was like, if you're not going, I'm taking you. And so I ended up seeing
Right.
someone, and it was a mail provider, and he had deployed. He was prior service, and he had been deployed where I was deployed. So we clicked. He understood, and I'm like, I felt at home with him. He
Yeah.
spoke the military lingo, you name it, and it was just like so soothing. And I was like, I want to be like him. I want to be more like him. Like, I want to make a difference. So that really also motivated me. And um, I've been really passionate about the veteran population, and um, I've been doing it since I got out and continue to serve in a different way. And I'm still doing it.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
realized that there was a lacking veteran presence for advocacy in your area where you're at, and that kind of led you to helping out there as well as creating outside the
Yeah.
wire. Which yeah, if you want to talk about that and kind of what your purpose is there, what you're hoping to, what you hope to get, and kind of how that all even
Yeah,
became a
so I'm
thing.
in a rural area of south of Kansas. I'm in southeast Kansas, and we are so small that we have no veteran services. Well, we have a couple now. Through one is through the Crawford County Mental Health, and I actually helped create that program. And then we didn't have any VSOs. We have one who comes down once a month, but one VSO to help so many vets, I mean, is crazy. We have a large veteran population.
Yeah. And and then just as so for anyone who's watching, a VSO is a veteran service officer, and they're basically the liaison between the veteran and the VA, helping them navigate the different benefits or the different structures within the VA. They are, at least in our area, very tasked. It's just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
and
it's
and
the more, veterans that you have, the less VSOs you have, the more of a struggle
Yeah.
it can be on
yeah,
both ends, both
and you
sides.
can have, and a VSO is incredibly crucial, at least in my experience, to having a good
Yeah.
experience with the VA. If you have a bad VSO and they
Yeah.
exist,
Yeah,
your experience with with the VA is just going to be generally a really bad experience, and you have to fight more, you have to do more. It's just like it's an
more daunting.
incredible,
It's more
yeah,
of a daunting
incredibly
task.
hard experience. Having a good VSO that is knowledgeable, that cares and can connect you to the right resources, and it makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
so
So,
we don't really have
uh,
them in the
so
area. So I noticed I kept running into a lot of vets in our area, and when I was practicing social work and we were going to nursing homes, I saw that we had vets in nursing homes, and social workers didn't really, and a lot of people they don't really understand the VA and how it works. They don't know the difference between the health administration, the benefits administration, and the burial administration, and so
Which we learned through
they
you,
are
they are
not
not
connected. I
connected. Anybody
know.
else that didn't know that, because I did not know that, which is absolutely
Yeah,
amazing to me that a
oftentimes working
system like
against
that
yeah,
each other, right?
yeah.
most of the time, I think.
And
Yeah, yeah.
It feels like it.
So
so here we are, and then I ran into a few that had a crisis, right? And usually when you reach a crisis point, that's your breaking point. Like
Mhm.
you can no longer deal with that. And so I'm thinking about everything that is happening in Southeast Kansas, that we have a large veteran population and that we have no services and we have no VSOs. So I applied to be an accredited agent, and it took just my luck. So usually it takes about 3 years, 3 to 4 years to get your license because of how backed up the VA is. But I was getting ready to take, so my application went to DC and it was being processed. That's when the administrations changed, right? Trump left office and Biden comes in. Well, when they left, uh, the new staff came in, they lost my application. 3.5 years
Yeah.
in.
It sounds like
So
government.
yeah,
I mean, I literally forwarded
I bet this story ends where they
no, well,
miraculously
I
found it
forwarded
too.
the application because when we submitted the application, it was via email. They have a box, an email box that you send it to. So I forwarded the application and I figured, hey, they're going to expedite it because they seen that I submitted it in 2018. And no, I had to go through the entire process again, and we go through fingerprints and you name it. It's very intrusive. You do a security clearance and
Hmm.
all that. So finally, I'm able to sit for the exam, and I passed it a year ago. So I haven't been licensed that long, but I stayed up to date on everything that was changing at the VA, and
Hmm.
I was guiding vets on how to file claims, right? So,
Sure.
that was really nice to have, and I haven't I wrote 2 small grants, because as independent VSOs or veteran service organizations, we are not funded by the state or the federal government. Sadly, we have to take 20% of the back pay of some claims, not all of them. And when it
Sure.
comes to veterans who are in nursing homes needing assistance with the VA, like pension or burial, obviously we don't get paid for any of that, right? Uh, so I wrote I wrote a couple grants, and I recently wrote another one because for some reason I don't know why, but I have been getting a lot of requests to help vets that are in nursing homes, and it's because they're passing or they're going to hospice and all that. It's like, well, I can't
Sure.
say no. And they are very, very time consuming, because I go to them instead of them coming to me. And so when I started the nonprofit,
Sure.
it was I had D. D comes up a lot. I had D and a couple other guys come out to the house. It was after Hill had shot himself in his apartment. And he had, I
Mm,
believe he was the ninth from our unit, but the second or third one from our platoon who had committed suicide. Um, and he was one who has struggled a lot, and I helped him when I was at the VA, got him mental health services, got him housing. He was homeless, he fell into addiction, all that. And finally, after moving to different states, he ended up in California. And he seemed to be happy, and he just couldn't take it anymore. And they found him in his apartment. So
that's
I
so
was
hard.
like, okay, we got to do something about this. And I had already had the idea of OTW. I came up with the idea a few years ago, but it really became a solid idea with the plan when I was working on my PhD program and really dove into the mental health piece and all that. And D had reached out and said, "Hey, this is too much. Like, this is too much. We really need to get together and check on our mental health." And so we're looking for venues, right, in Kansas City, nearby area. And I was like, well, I don't know what you guys think about this, but we have a house that sits on 20 acres. And when we moved out here, we made it kind of military friendly. Like we added a fire pit, an outdoor bar, trails, a pond, so we can hike and fish and all that. And I was like, you guys can come out. Families are invited, spouse, children. So they come out. And so I told them what I was planning on doing, which was offer recreational therapy because I had collected data from those who I deployed with and vets from other areas across the country to see how they will respond to recreational therapy, which is your hiking, fishing, camping, cooking, all that, versus traditional therapy, right? Before I opened the nonprofit, because I'm like, what if I open it and it folds, right? And so
Right.
Right.
the reason why I had sampled my friends was because I wanted to see if it was just my friends supporting me because they were my friends or if it was really what vets wanted. And obviously, the outsiders would tell me if the data was skewed or what. So
Mm-hmm.
the first retreat was great. It was small, but the feedback was amazing. The data came back, and a lot of the vets, except for one, said they preferred traditional therapy, that they preferred a female provider, prior service, who was familiar with military lingo. They didn't have, they were not against traditional therapy. Their problem with it was that um, a lot of the mental health providers didn't understand military culture. And so they felt like they were
Sure.
Yeah.
going into therapy to educate the therapists about military, and they didn't want that. They just
I've heard
wanted
that.
to get help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Or defend themselves. I hear that one too. Like you're almost defending
Yeah.
yourself in
And
there.
so I was like, okay,
So
well, and the one interesting thing was most wanted a female provider, most of them. The Vietnam population did not want a female provider. They were very against that, but I think it's that population, right? And the era and just how they grew up and all that. Yeah.
men being men,
And yeah,
that was
exactly.
that.
And so
Yeah.
obviously the second year we had another retreat and it kind of took off, and then we did some outreach and we said, hey, outside the wire, we do suicide prevention trainings, we go into nursing homes and we help vets that are in nursing homes needing help, try to educate them about the health administration, the benefits administration, and burial, and like who can help who and what forms are needed. So many forms. Oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
the VA has 1,000 forms.
Yeah.
There's a form for the form for the other form. And then you gotta submit a form
You're
to get a
not
form.
kidding. As
Like,
crazy as that sounds.
it's not, I know.
And
Anybody that's had to reach out to St.
yeah,
Louis, they know. Like, you gotta submit a form to get a form so that you can request a form to get another form to get another
yeah.
one.
And
It's
so
crazy.
it has been, the community has been very supportive. We've had a couple fundraisers and they turned out pretty decent. Um, we are having,
And this year you're
we're
doing
doing
your
our
third
third, and so we
retreat,
have
correct?
grown, and we are getting sponsors for this one. So we're moving from our land to it's a place called the Honey Pit, and it's a really nice Airbnb. It sleeps up to 12, but we can also camp outside. It's out in the skirts of town at a strip pit, and it's just beautiful. And we're actually catering food, so it's growing, right? And then we're having
Nice.
volunteers like take care of the kids, and we'll have activities for the kids like art therapy and all that. And I think this is going to work out pretty good because unfortunately, I have a student in my class who deployed to Afghanistan, and it's a local unit, and they just lost one of their members to suicide yesterday. So, with the retreat being right up on us, I think it would be really nice to reach out to them and offer them
Yeah.
this as their main retreat. Like, yes, we will
Right.
have our unit and like a couple members from the community, but I think I'm going to focus it more on everyone who was affected, right? Because they're local. It's a local unit.
Right.
And so it's just such a delicate topic. I mean, I think we've all been through it and they just need that closure. So it will be,
Yeah,
I'm going to
definitely.
reach out to them and say, hey, I would like to offer you this and we'll sponsor it. And so, yeah, we're growing and hopefully we will continue to grow and we'll see what else comes of OTW. But ideally, what I would love to do with Outside the Wire is have our own building where vets can come in for help with like resume building, interview skills,
Hmm.
connect them with agencies within the community who have like veterans preference and kind of like
Right.
a USO also, where we have some snacks and they come in and all that.
Yeah,
The problem
Yeah.
is the funding. It's always the funding.
Right.
right.
So, and because we're in a small town, um, they're very supportive, but running such facility takes a lot of money, and we are a year out from qualifying for federal grants. So I think this can be federally funded at some point, um, just not yet.
There'd be a lot more money out there if they weren't flying in from Springfield to Fort Leonard Wood, wasting that air, jet fuel and
So I
everything.
hope I answered your
Um,
question. I know we never really got to what I found on my dissertation, the findings.
Yeah. We'll have to do a second interview. Maybe you can come up to
yeah,
Michigan. We'll play a round of
Yes.
golf or something.
yeah, definitely. Or
Um,
maybe we'll make it down there and kind
or
of do like a
part.
tour of
Yeah.
the do the tour for the what the actual
You
Outside the
know,
Wire
I
is
think that
and all
would
about.
be
And
great,
Two.
especially like if we do partner the way we're trying to. I would love to come out.
ooh, we're letting the cat out of the bag.
Edit,
Oh.
edit
We're
that,
dropping
edit.
we're dropping secrets over
You heard
here.
it here
Holy,
first.
live
You
Okay,
heard it
good
here
live
thing that you
first.
have
first.
the
Yeah.
ability to edit that. But I would love
Yeah.
I would love to come out and to one of your guys' events and vice versa. Our retreat is not till September,
Yeah.
so if
Yeah.
you guys want, I mean, I think it's gonna be great. And we have it for
Yeah,
3 days.
absolutely. I mean, I can't imagine how it's
And
not great.
so
So,
Yeah. I mean, I'll just put that out there right now. I don't know if your capacity is already full for that, but it's September
25th through
28.
the
Is that what it
27th.
was? 25th
yeah,
through the 27th. If you're somebody who, a veteran who likes the
could benefit
outdoors.
from that. Yeah, if you are in a position where you think that a retreat like that would definitely benefit
Yeah.
you, or
I
even
And
if
know.
you're
and
interested
I'll
in
tell
it.
you some of the things
Yeah.
that we do because I haven't really touched on that, but we did some hiking, we did some fishing, and obviously we do a lot of talk. It's not like, hey, come in, let's talk about our feelings and how we're feeling. So the first one was it was
And
like
sing
a get together
Kumbaya
and it was
and
awesome. The
army
second one,
song.
they already knew what they were coming into, and I'll tell you what, those guys were loaded with trauma and issues. And I was the only one mental health
Sure.
provider there. And I was there more as a friend, and I'm the one who runs this place kind of thing. I knew them. I was not prepared for everything that was coming. A lot of marital issues, a lot of depression, a lot of,
And once one starts and everybody realizes that this is
yes.
a safe space, it just
And
the
that's
Yeah.
floodgates
exactly what
open.
happened. And so at the
So,
end of the night, so we cooked throughout the day and we were just bullshit and really, and so all those feelings come out without me having a problem, like, "Hey, tell me about your day, tell me about your life and your feelings."
Right.
It just
It's just
naturally comes out.
natural.
It does not feel like therapy at all. That's why we call it a retreat. And so at the end of the night,
Yeah.
we both years, we ended with we set up tents all around the fire. We had a really nice fire pit that my husband built in the middle. And we were talking about those guys that we've lost. And this year we created, well, 2025, we created this huge canvas with pictures of all the
Yeah.
members that we've lost to suicide. So that is something that I will, as sad as it sounds, I would like to build a wall, right? So
Right.
anyone who
Memorial.
comes out
Yeah.
to the retreat who has had a service member die by suicide, bring that photo, add it to the wall, because when we are having events and when we're asking for funding, we can show, look, this is what happens and this is why we do the
This is
work
what we're
that we
doing it
do.
for 'em.
And none of us get paid. Like, none of us get
Right.
paid at all,
Right.
and no one complains about it either. I think in the future, when if we end up being federally funded, we'll get paid, but no one does.
Well, and right now, rumor
Yeah.
is if there's enough margarita juice and Dr. Carol here, she'll sing the transportation song for you at the end of the
Oh,
night,
yeah?
so
You
maybe I
you
just
know
made that up now.
you know the
Maybe I
song?
heard that.
You guys remember it?
Yes. Part of it,
I
yeah.
mean, somewhere
We
down in there, I'm
we
sure it's
load the
there.
ships, we load the trains.
Please
Come
stop.
on.
Abort mission. Abort
Weird, I
mission.
don't remember that one.
It gets even better. It gets even better when you're with the crew around a
Yeah,
fire
yeah.
and the bar
Once
Yeah.
sound is a lot of fun.
once the liquid courage is flowing and everybody, all of a sudden remembers that from, yeah,
That's
so
so funny. Well, hey, I know we're kind of past time and we still have way
Yeah.
more to talk about. I mean, we didn't even touch into like you joining
Oh my
Miss
gosh, yes.
Mrs. Kansas
yeah,
and
being
just that journey.
that,
So,
yeah,
thank you for what you do, what you're doing in the advocacy. Um I think we all know how hard it is to navigate the VA, and I know there's a lot of news right now that the government's kind of trying to cut benefits, trying to look for fraud, and it's like in my experience, it's so hard to fraud the VA as a veteran because you
yeah,
have to
yeah,
jump through so many hoops, and maybe people do it, but like it's been more. It's not like things are just handed to
Right.
veterans,
It's
and it's
no.
just like
As much as people
and
wanna believe that because it's all these veteran discounts and,
right,
Veterans Day, you get a free meal. Like, that's about it. Like, that's
yeah,
about the only extent of what we're handed.
you have to you have to have an advocate to
Yeah.
actually get something of benefit that you actually earn out of all the things. And I'm going to go on a soapbox for a second. For
Oh,
out of
boy.
all the benefits
Cue the
out
music in
there,
the background.
yeah, for our society,
Yeah.
veterans actually earn their
I agree.
benefit.
Yeah.
A lot of things are just given as safety nets, and it's great, and our society needs it. But like this is one that like the benefiting people actually put their lives, their bodies, their mental health, their future on the line. And this is just the government saying, "Hey, like we were the cause of that, so you earn this
Yeah.
benefit." And so it's not something that is just like just like a safety net. Like this is something that people are there is a real suffering that's happening, and it's mostly quiet because we've been told to
Drink
shove it
water.
down and drive on, and so it's this quiet suffering that's happening, and like these things, these resources that are available that have been earned are for us. We just need to get connected to it, and there's just not enough connection points. There's not enough people that are educated enough to be able to go, oh, I can like I'm struggling in this area and there's help for me. We just don't know. And
Right.
so what you're doing, Carol, I just really appreciate you bringing not only attention, but like you bring that connection and you bring that space for people to heal and to be open, and that's so needed in the veteran
And from a
community.
place of where you actually care, which
Yeah.
is also nice because
Yeah.
I think as veterans, and when you go there and and nothing against civilians that are working in the military sector of life. I mean, that somebody's got to do it, and there's just not enough of
And
everybody.
I've
But
I've got to I have civilians that have helped me too. It's great. I love
It
Yes.
is.
civilians.
It,
Civilians
it's
help
ju- it's
people.
a tough job, but
Another
I
it's
don't
thing
want
that
sometimes a bit
we've
to find
done
that.
through OTW that I actually didn't mention here was we do a lot of trainings with mental health providers in the community to teach them about the veteran population and how to specifically treat this population and what they need to be learning about before seeing a veteran. So how to become more culturally competent when it comes to us and how different we are
Yeah.
from your stereotypical individual who comes in for therapy because you have combat trauma and you have institutional betrayal trauma and then I mean you name
Right.
it uh y- yeah, military sexual
MST
trauma,
and
you
all
name it,
kinds
yeah.
of stuff.
So adjustment disorders, you name it. And so yeah, that's something that we've done and they
Yeah.
have actually responded really well to that.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe
I
if there's
think
a
I
space
think
for it, we can
civilians
start a Michigan
care.
chapter too.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
You
We've
know,
got
and
we've got plenty
get
of
some broaden our reach, broaden our umbrella.
recreational
So
space and stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
Cool. Thanks again, Carol.
yeah, Carol. Thank
Oh,
you
you're
very
Appreciate your
much.
welcome.
time.
Anytime.
We look forward to seeing you
All right, we'll
on
be in
again.
touch. Have a great day, guys.
Yeah,
Bye.
Cool.
thank you. You
Thanks. You
too.
too.